So upcoming Friday nights, me and the degenerate boys that we are, we're coming back with the betting show.
You look at the way he bounces off tacklers, the way that he keeps his eyes downfield, his vision, his ability to find holes, his pass catching ability, right? Because he had.
In my lifetime, I'd put him at probably around the 2 area, with, again, the only other person up there being King Ricky.
Anthony Richardson or Caleb Williams at the 111.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of BSing Sports, where we do a little BS and we talk a whole lot of sports. We are recording this show a day late, so we are releasing it a day late. That is because my co-host, Mr. Jacob Krogan, was feeling under the weather this weekend, but he's back, potentially better than ever, question mark?
Definitely not better than ever. I downed a bunch of decongestant pills so I could talk to y'all, so just bear with me here.
Yeah. And an interesting show that we have today for the two of us. This is post-combine. We're recording this the Monday after the combine is complete. However, the combine being complete isn't necessarily going to factor into what we're talking about today. So Daniel Jeremiah, one of the writers, analysts for NFL Network, NFL Network, very respected man in the mock drafting community, has released his mock 2.0. This is about a week and a half old at this point. We are going to take the first round of that mock NFL draft and analyze the what ifs of, the potential landing spots for the fantasy relevant players, and talk about the goods, the bads, guys who we think will be in the first round, maybe where they'll go, and guys who we, think won't land in the first round that Daniel Jeremiah has there. We'll branch off into a little bit more topic, but long story short, just going to be going over this mock as kind of like a what if. So Jake, do you have anything to say before we start? Anything about the combine, anything about fantasy, anything at all?
Yeah, we're going to take a sidebar to I was watching our intro, and if you haven't watched it, you could just see the progression of my beard throughout the films to now, and I was just like, "Oh, it does look like I've grown up." So
as two both of us former military guys now, having the beard is very nice. The beard will never go away.
Nope.
I'll make that very, very clear.
The beard, shave it once a year.
The beard will change over time. I came a little bit higher up on the sides this time, but it'll never go away. Wait, why do you have to shave once a year?
Gas mask fit tests.
You have to do gas mask fit test?
Well, not gas, just
respirator?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or fuel tank.
Dude, so
man, Doc is going to town.
Yeah, so I keep my deployment bag in my office room because it doubles off as another dog bed for him while his main dog bed's in the living room. So we also have some guys that may have to wear a respirator, but it's completely optional on whether they wear the respirator or not. They do not have to choose to shave their beard if they do not desire, which means they do not have to wear the respirator.
Sadly for fuel tanks, that's a FAA guideline.
Yes, it is.
So
sure is. They can't offer like that over the hood kind of thing. No,
it's okay. I mean, I'll take shaving once a year over every day of my life.
Yeah, every day got really old really fast. All right, we did sidebar there, so let's go ahead and bring up. Highlight just the fantasy relevant players for, standard formats, quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends. And for those of you that are just tuning in, or maybe you have forgotten, Jake and I play Dynasty Superflex tight end premium. So that is how we will be talking about the valuation of the players and their landing spots. So we have divided up, first round early, first round mid, first round late. So we've got 11 fantasy relevant players going in the first round. Let's talk about the first one. So in this mock draft from Daniel Jeremiah, we have Cam Ward being the first quarterback selected to the Cleveland Browns at number 2 overall. Jake, why don't you go ahead and give me your real life opinion of this landing spot and then what it does for you in Dynasty Fantasy Football as far as where you have Cam Ward.
In real life, honestly, I think this is the best scenario for the Cleveland Browns. I think this is the best quarterback prospect that they have in this year's draft, which is not a very strong quarterback prospect personally. As far as all the quarterbacks in it, we don't have last year where we have 6 going in the first round. We're going to probably have 2, maybe a third. We might see Jackson Dart at the end. We'll see how that goes. But honestly, with the Browns, I think Cam Ward has the highest ceiling. He has a live arm. And honestly, with that offense, you have Njoku, you have Jerry Jeudy, you have Tillman when he was healthy. He looked like he could be a nice wide receiver too. You have a solid offensive line that will, I think, get another running back with Nick Chubb going. I think he's probably moving on. But I like it from a realistic standpoint. And then from fantasy standpoint, I think the Browns threw the ball a ton last year. So I think they have a chance to do it again. And I think this is the best fantasy spot he can go to right now. Because if he goes to the Titans, I don't like what they have. And the Giants just have way too many holes to fill. And then the Raiders are the Raiders. So
for what it's worth, Daniel Jeremiah did have Abdul Carter going number 1 overall to the Titans, and I actually agree with that. I said it a couple weeks ago. I'm going to keep saying it until I see something that gives me evidence to change this. Abdul Carter is the best player in the draft. I think that, the Titans are more than just a quarterback away, and they are either taking him at 1 overall or they're trading out of that spot entirely.
I get behind that.
Yeah. So what Cam Ward's an interesting one because I truly don't believe any of the quarterbacks being drafted in this class would tap their full potential if they were day 1 starters. I think all of these quarterbacks would benefit from at least sitting 1 year. Cam Ward included in that. That being said, Jameis Winston's a free agent. Deshaun Watson is out for at least a substantial amount of 2025 after re-tearing his Achilles. This would obviously put Cam Ward in line to be the, presumed immediate starter. To your point, I think you said everything pretty well, right? Even with Nick Chubb moving on, depending on what they do at running back, Cleveland does, I could see them, still throwing the ball a lot next year. And that would be great for Cam Ward. I think Cam Ward's fairly athletic. I think he's athletic enough to escape. He's not going to be a real fantasy threat to run like not Lamar Jackson. Actually, my comp for him, my ceiling and floor comp for him, this might be a little bit interesting, is Deshaun Watson. One way or the other. He's either going to be Texans Deshaun Watson or he's going to be Cleveland Deshaun Watson.
I think it's very hard to be a Cleveland Deshaun Watson because that was bottom of the barrel quarterback play.
Yeah, but I see it, right? You've said something about it. I've said something about it. Cam Ward.
Ryan's sneezing right now. He's muted like a gentleman.
Had to sneeze. There we go. I knew it was coming. Only one this time. But no, I think Cam Ward, needs to speed up his internal clock. We saw at Miami where there were dropbacks that he had where he would literally just stand there. And I think that, he needs time to develop that internal clock, that 1-2, get the football out, 1-2, get the football out, scan. Not that he wasn't scanning through his progressions, but, he was just kind of standing back there with no real pressure on him. And I think that's going to have to drastically change at the NFL level. So if that internal clock doesn't speed up and it gets sped up for him, he could be in a world of trouble.
I will say this. The last time that I said a quarterback needed to speed up their clock, that I don't think they have it between their ears, was CJ Stroud, and I ate those words really hard 2 years ago. But it's in our text somewhere that I do agree with you, Ryan. I do think Cam Ward, if he can process the NFL faster, he will be able to be a good quarterback because he has the arm. He can throw from multiple angles. And the biggest thing I like about him, I don't know if you've been watching the Shador Sanders and him working out, like those videos that they post and stuff.
Some of those crack me up, dude. They're so funny.
I like his competitive nature. I like that he puts it all out there. He doesn't come from money like Shador. I have nothing against Shador either, but I'm just saying, like, it's pretty big. Like, he wants to go out there. He wants to compete. He wants to get better. And so I can see him doing that. And so going to the Browns, I think, is the best out of the 4 quarterback needy teams, in my humble opinion, just because they have a solid defense. And yeah.
4 quarterback needy teams.
Why? Who are?
Well, I'm saying you said 4. I think there's more than 4.
There are, but I'm talking about where he will go because he will go in the top 4 picks.
I think he'll go 2nd overall. We see it all the time in the draft. Now if there's a team that's really that high on Cam Ward, they're going to make a trade with the Titans to move up to number 1 overall to make sure that the number 1 overall is the only pick in the NFL draft where you can guarantee you're going to get the guy you want. So sometimes it's not about moving up to select a guy that would have been there. It's moving up to select the guy to make sure that he is there. And that's something a lot of people forget, with the Eagles traded from 10 to 9 overall to grab Jalen Carter. It's like, well, why did they move up 1 pick to give up a third rounder on top of it? It's, well, because maybe somebody else makes that deal with Chicago and gets Jalen Carter. You never know. So, same scenario could apply here. But yeah, I think as far as like fantasy relevance, like being a dynasty player, obviously, I would expend high rookie draft capital on him because the NFL would be telling me that they think he's the best quarterback in the draft. And I would agree with that. That being said, I wouldn't have high expectations immediately. Yes, I know Judy's coming off a good year. Cedric Tillman showed some flashes. Elijah Moore showed some flashes. David Njoku's an absolute monster. Yep. But I would need to see Cam Ward play in real life before I had, high fantasy expectations for him. So that'd be somebody that I'd draft, if I was in the position to draft him, but I would be cautiously optimistic about moving forward.
I agree.
I did put Travis Hunter on here at number 3 overall to the Giants, but I think you and I are in lockstep. What do you think Travis Hunter is going to do with his NFL career?
I think Travis Hunter, honestly, from what I see, I think his best ability is to be a wide receiver. But I think it's totally up in the air. So if you're an IDP, this man's your 101, no questions asked. Like there's no lose here. You're not losing. But for Superflex, for what we do, I'm staying away from him. I want nothing to do with him. Yes, I think he can play both sides. And yes, I think he can be good at both sides in the NFL. But I'm not going to go spend that first-round capital. I'm not going to go spend that early second round on somebody that might not even play wide receiver. They might have packages for him. They might do these things for him. But he is not going to be a consistent basis. And you are looking for somebody to change your team when you draft that high in the first round. And I don't think he has it.
Yeah, and to your point, he could either side of the ball individually, he could, be great for the Giants. I personally think he's a better cornerback than he is wide receiver, and I think it's harder to be a good cornerback in today's NFL than it is to be a good wide receiver. It sounds like, just from everything that I'm listening and all the chatter in the fantasy and football communities, that Travis Hunter is going to be a primary cornerback, in his NFL career with maybe some wide receivers sprinkled in. So yes, IDP 101, no doubt. But I did throw him on here just so we could talk about him. I don't think that he's going to be a wide receiver. Therefore, I don't think that he's actually going to be relevant to the formats that we play in. But
I will say this, though. If he does go to the Giants,
as a wide receiver,
I think he would be a great wide receiver too, with Neighbors being there. I think with the defensive help that they need, I think New York is crazy enough and Dayball's trying to save his job along with the GM, that they would play him at both. And if he thrives, they look like geniuses and they keep their job.
Yeah, honestly, that'd be a no-lose situation because either he thrives, they keep their job, or they don't keep their jobs, and what happens to Travis Hunter down the road isn't really their problem anymore. Whether his career gets shortened just due to extensive playing time and potential injuries that come of that, or whatever the case may be. But I think Travis Hunter would be a good number 2 behind Malik Neighbors if he was drafted as a wide receiver to the Giants. But who would be throwing them the football?
Honestly, I don't know who's going to throw them football, but it would be really interesting if the Giants got like a Travis Hunter or something and then drafted a Jackson Dart, like move into the first round or something at the end if he's there and draft him. Like something like that level, just to see, because Neighbors thrives with that. Like
that would intrigue me a ton. And we'll talk about Jackson Dart a little bit later, but just because you brought up the specific scenario. Jackson Dart to the Giants, who have, for the sake of, what ifs, Travis Hunter on one side and Malik Neighbors on the other. That would intrigue me a lot for Jackson Dart.
Right.
But let's hold off on Dart for now and talk about the slightly consensus QB2 in this draft. And he seems to have cooled off a ton in the last month or so. And that's Shedeur Sanders. In this Daniel Jeremiah mock, he has Shedeur Sanders being drafted by the Raiders at 6th overall. There was another report that came out during the combine that basically said this is the earliest he's going to be drafted. Now, crazier things have happened on draft day. There's teams desperate enough for quarterbacks, so who knows what's going to happen. But in this what if here, Shedeur's an interesting one to me because he's not terribly athletic. I don't think he has like scramble ability like Cam Ward does to extend a play. I just don't see him as that type of passer. However, I feel like he could be a solid fantasy QB2 if he gets into the right system and learns to develop more rhythm in his passes. Some of his timing throws, in college were a little off to begin with. He improved on those drastically. But I want to see Shedeur I think he fits in a very specific system, and I think he needs to go to a spot that has that system. I'm not sure that the Raiders are that. I know that they got a new head coach, and Mr. Pete Carroll, so we'll see what that looks like. Although if Pete Carroll can turn him into anything like Russell Wilson, that would be very, very interesting. And I would also be curious to see how Shedeur utilizes the tight ends. I am no doubt in my mind that Brock Bowers will be heavily involved no matter who the quarterback is.
Okay. Yeah, no, I 1,000% agree with you here. Going to the Raiders will be interesting. The best thing for Shedeur is that Pete Carroll is the head coach of the Raiders, and we know what he loves to do. He loves to pound that rock. He loves to run it, and we saw what he did do with Russell Wilson. He plays to his quarterback's strengths, so I think he's going to do that. What Shedeur does very, very well is he throws with timing. He throws he runs what's the word I'm looking for here? He can run an offense that is based on timing, based off play action. He can do that. He can do the RPOs. We saw it at Colorado. So to me, Shedeur at the Raiders, I like it. I like that he can do the dump offs, the quick out routes to Bowers. I could see an avenue where Shedeur does have a productive Russell Wilson-esque type career, but at the same time,
athleticism and rushing upside.
Yeah, without that, because he's just not that guy. He likes to play hero ball, but I think honestly, him there would be the best fit because he won't have to play hero ball. He can just do timing and get rid of it.
I agree with that evaluation. I think that would be a very interesting landing spot. So, quick, another hypothetical because we only have the first round mock here, so not using names that are present that we're going to talk about the rest of the way through. Whose draft for fantasy would you consider better? Travis Hunter is a wide receiver to the Giants, 3rd overall. and then the Giants come back and take Jackson Dart, or the Raiders taking Shadur Sanders 6th overall and Quinshaw Judkins being their 2nd round pick. Which team would you want to invest more in at that point?
I'm trying so hard to think about this logically because it is the Raiders. And I just don't want to but I love the idea of Jackson Dart, Travis Hunter, and Malik Neighbors over Judkins, Shador, and Jacoby Myers. Like, to me,
we can't really hate on Jacoby Myers. He's a solid number 2.
Dude, absolute lights out, crushes it, solid number 2. I'm not knocking that for one bit. I'm just saying, I don't know if I like Shador over what that offense can do. And we've seen what that offense can do with the shoddy quarterback play that they've had already. And one thing I know Jackson Dart can do is throw to his receiver that he loves, regardless of anything. And that is going to be Neighbors. And then he's going to have the safety valve. And so, to me, I like the Giants better. I think the Giants have a better outcome if those were the options that I got.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't, I could see both arguments. It would be you have Bowers. You have the best tight end in the league. And I hate to say that, but it's true.
And Judkins, I think, is going to do some nasty work in the NFL.
Oh, he's a workhorse. He's going to be a workhorse. Dude, this entire running back class, I'm so excited for it.
Yeah, I'm. We'll talk about it more as we get into the rookies, but I have, I heard something on a podcast the other day, and it makes a lot of sense. It resonates with me, so we'll get to it. But to round out the early first round, this is a very polarizing player. Came on just this past year, had the huge breakout for Penn State. Ty Warren going 7th overall to the Jets. What is your initial reaction to that?
Hate that he's going to the Jets, but I had the same reaction with the Raiders. So I'm trying to take teams out of it. I'm trying to get off the location train. And I'm just going straight talent here. And the talent that I love is Ty Warren. I think he is going to be elite. I think he is going to be a top 5 tight end for a long, long time. And my favorite thing is he said he comped himself to Jeremy Shockey. And you want to know what Jeremy Shockey did well? He got dirty.
A lot. Jeremy Shockey did a lot well.
He got dirty. He blocked. He was out there for the team. But he also was a receiving cat. Like, he did everything. I love that. I love that comp that he gave himself. I love the talent. I love what he did at Penn State. And I love that he commanded that offense. You ran the offense through him, and you want to see that through your tight end. Like, if you do look back, and this, look at CSU, Colorado State University, with Trey McBride. They ran it through him. Georgia obviously ran it through Bowers. You want to see that. You want to see that they are able to do those things. And to me, Ty Warren is a slam dunk pick here. And in fantasy, you're going to be happy. I'm praying to God with my 106 he is there.
I think he will be. This is the intriguing. This is the perfect scenario of talent over situation, right? Because the Jets are kind of a mess. Looks like Aaron Rodgers is on his way out. The Jets said they would be fine starting Tyrod Taylor, which tells me that they're going to do anything they can to not start Tyrod Taylor. But we've seen Tyrod Taylor actually play pretty well in the past when given opportunities. He just happens to be the most unlucky guy on the face of the earth.
Honestly, I was just thinking about it. Like, how do you puncture a lung, dude?
To be fair, it opened the door to Justin Herbert.
Dude's just unlucky. Takes
no warm up at all. Almost beat the Chiefs that day.
Yeah, takes the Bills to the playoffs, and then gets replaced by Josh Allen. And what do you do with your life?
But yeah, so Ty Warren, obviously has come on strong in the last 12 months, right? Nobody had him mocked this high a year ago. The ability is there. The utilization is comparable to Brock Bowers. Now Brock Bowers is a different animal when it comes to being a tight end, but Ty Warren, This would probably put him in like my top 6 dynasty tight ends, like right away, if he got like top 10 draft capital.
Oh yeah, no.
Given how shoddy the position is, what would you say this would? Say this exact scenario happens. Where do you have him in your dynasty tight end rankings going into the season?
Dude, it's up there. Yeah, no, definitely top 6. And for dynasty, you know he's going to be there for a while. The Jets don't have any competition for him, and I mean they have Garrett Wilson, so he's not gonna get double teamed because that's just going to leave Garrett Wilson open. So he's going to get open. He's going to be a safety valve for whatever quarterback comes there. And it's just going to be good for him. I think he is going to be an instant impact, and he's going to be great. And that's just my love for Tyler Warren. So is it Ty or Tyler?
I think it's Tyler Warren, but I just put Ty.
Okay, cool. I was like, have I been calling him the wrong name my entire life?
No, I think it's Tyler Warren. Ty Warren was also a defensive end for the New England Patriots in the early 2000s. So
I'm professing my love and can't even say his first name right. I was panicking for a second on the inside.
Middle of the first round, let's move on here. And this one had the most interesting landing spot here, starting out with 19th overall to the Buccaneers, wide receiver out of Arizona, Teteroa McMillan, aka T-Mac. This is a very intriguing landing spot for me because this mock draft came out right around the same time that the Buccaneers said they extended Godwin's void date on his contract, which means that they're going to just gives him more time to try and work out a deal. It really does sound like Chris Godwin's on his way back. And then Daniel Jeremiah drops this mock that has Teteroa McMillan going to the Bucs at 19th overall. And one of his biggest comps as a player is none other than Mike Evans. So my initial reaction is if this happens, Chris Godwin, let's assume Chris Godwin comes back like all the rumors are saying, and this happens, Jalen McMillan is dead. Like it's over for him. But also, this would be fantastic for Baker. I mean, he's going from Mike Evans to a guy who's going to learn how to be Mike Evans and then just slide right into the same role.
Yeah, but I don't love it for his fantasy value.
No. Ted McMillan would fall in drafts because of this. If this happens, he's the kind of consensus 102, we'll say. I've seen 103 as well with him and Cam Ward. But where does it put it, Ted McMillan, T-Mac, for you if this scenario plays out like this?
If this scenario played out like this, I'm out on him, mainly because if you are drafting him,
so you just wouldn't draft him at all.
Yeah, I don't have any draft capital around him, but
I'm saying you have every pick in the rookie draft. Where would you take him if this scenario plays out?
He would fall. He would fall outside probably my 106 range.
Okay.
Because I would take starting running backs that I know are going to be productive and that I can use. Or if I'm a quarterback needy team, I'm going to take that.
You'd take Ward. You would take Warren. You would take Genty and Hampton. I'm assuming we'll get into them in a second.
Yep.
So that puts him automatically at 105 right now. Is there another player? Is there anybody else that you would put ahead of Ted at that point?
I'm trying to think. I love Travion Henderson and Judkins. And it's all for running backs, it's all about location. Sadly, that kind of
draft capital and location.
Yep. And so it would be interesting if those guys are all first rounders and Ted McMillan falls to 19th.
So in this specific scenario, if this whole thing played out the way that it's written here, you'd probably take Travion over Ted.
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, there we go. Yeah, I don't hate it. I was just kind of trying to figure out like how much that landing spot would factor for you. I still think Ted McMillan's the best in the class.
Yeah, I'm not knocking his talent ability here. I don't like the
It would be tough for him to produce fantasy-wise
yeah,
in the first
fantasy
year or
points.
two, depending
Yeah.
on how long Chris Godwin comes back to Tampa for. Yeah.
And for those that, if you are just listening to the podcast and not watching this, Ryan has the mock draft pulled up on our screen. So if you switch over to YouTube and watch it, you can follow along with us. That way, you're not just thinking we're just naming off names here. You can kind of follow along and see what we're talking about. Also, subscribe while you're doing that. But
Subscribe on YouTube. But yeah, so the first year or two would probably be a little frustrating, as you'd have to wait for Mike Evans to really age out and Chris Godwin to, move on for good. But
yeah,
like I said, great for Baker.
for the Bucs in general. But I think the Bucs have too many defensive issues to even try and do this. So
yeah, and not only that, like when you look at the Bucs construct, like they're just going to throw the shit out of the ball. I mean, I can't trust Bucky Irving and Rashad White to run the football 35 times a game between the two of them. Neither one of them are 20 carry a game type guys. A lot of their production comes from short passes that they utilize as part of the running game. So to me, if this happened, I'd just want even more of the Bucs offense. This would Jack Baker, higher up in my A tier than I already have him.
I mean, yeah, no, as far as Baker for fantasy, I 100% agree with you.
Next pick in the middle of the first round, Colston Loveland to the Broncos at 20th overall. I know that that this would provide some mixed feelings for you, Jake. So why don't you go ahead and, this is a safe space for you. Go ahead and get it off your chest.
I wouldn't hate it. But at the same time, I don't think I can fall in love with it. He's young. He did some good things at Michigan. I don't know. I don't know. It would be complete mixed feelings, like you said. Love that Denver got a tight end, but I would much rather them try and get Tyler Warren personally because I love him. But I don't hate it.
I think Colston Loveland has a fantastic NFL skill set. I think he does all things very well. Maybe he's not the yak guy that Ty Warren is. Ty Warren's kind of different with the ball in his hand than Colston Loveland is, but I think Colston Loveland's a fine route runner. I think he's got good hands. I think he's a good pass catching tight end, and I think he can block, as we saw at Michigan. I think he's the perfect Sean Payton tight end. I think that he can stay on the field and play your 75, 80% of the snaps, once he gets up to the NFL speed. So I think that this is a really good landing spot for Colston Loveland. I don't know. I can't. And my immediate reaction is like this would put me really close to drafting Colston Loveland like top 8.
If you got drafted by the Broncos?
Yeah, and in the first round.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
First round. I mean, yes, I would have to because Denver doesn't have like an elite tight end. They have serviceable tight ends. And I think Loveland can do everything that Sean Payton wants him to do, but at the end of the day, like it doesn't wow me.
Is your hate for Michigan? Do you also hate
Michigan? It's just not a fan favorite of Michigan.
Let's move on. Let's move on to the next two. We'll talk about them collectively. So I'm curious to hear your stance on this. So Ashton Genty to the Steelers, 21st overall. Marion Hampton to the Chargers, 22nd overall. You're an Omarion Hampton truther. And I think we can both agree that the Chargers are probably a better landing spot than the Steelers. Does this move Omarion Hampton to your RB1?
100%.
So if you had 101, you would take Omarion Hampton over Ashton Genty if this scenario played itself out? Okay.
I would personally.
I don't think that's unreasonable, especially with what we just saw at the Combine. Omarion Hampton had an absolute field day at the Combine.
Man's good.
Speed scores there. Yeah, he's athletic. Somebody in a fantasy chat that I'm in said Omarion Hampton was going to go to the Eagles, and I was like, no, that'd be such a waste.
Yeah, I don't see the Eagles doing that.
No, but this would be an interesting scenario for me. I would still take Genty over Hampton, but I think if this whole scenario plays out right, Travion Henderson was my RB2. If this scenario plays out this way, Omarion Hampton is my RB2. I would flip-flop those two for sure. Whichever running back goes to the Chargers is going to get a significant boost because of the way that they like to run the football. Truthfully, I think J.K. Dobbins kind of hit a wall in the middle of the season last year, and they asked Justin Herbert to pick up the slack. I do think that they will turn around and go back to their running ways. But
correct me if I'm wrong. Did he not get hurt?
Dobbins, I think, missed like a game or two.
I'm looking it up.
Yeah, I think he missed a couple games.
He missed 4 games.
Did he? Oh, I didn't think it was that many.
4 games, and he was still running back 24. So, in a running back heavy league this last year. So
yeah.
He didn't do anything terrible, but he did miss some time. So
yeah, I think if Najee doesn't return to the Steelers and Dobbins doesn't go to the Chargers, I think it's I think it's wheels up for both of these two, right? I don't think you can really go wrong, but I think I'd still take Ashton Genty over Omarion Hampton. But like I said, Hampton would definitely become my RB2 at that point. In the late first round, we have Travion Henderson going to the Vikings at 24th overall. That could be a great landing spot for him.
I would absolutely love it. And I would take him over Ted McMillan at the Bucs if this was the scenario. Give me Travion Henderson. No ifs, ands, or buts. That man is going to ball out.
He could potentially have a similar play style in the NFL to that of Aaron Jones. Kind of lighter on the actual running side, but getting him involved in the short passing game. Travion Henderson's very explosive, just ran a 4.43 at the 40. His 10-yard split was the second best among running backs, which means he was explosive in the first 10 yards. And mind you, Aaron Jones is coming off of a RB15 finish in PPR last year with the Minnesota Vikings, getting 62 targets as well. So that could be fantastic for Travion Henderson. Well, I don't see Travion carrying the ball 250 times, but I think that he could be like a good 1A or a great pass catching back in a shared system in Minnesota. Team that's probably going to throw the heck out of the ball anyway.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. Love it. And that's – I would love him going there, honestly. It would be a perfect landing spot.
This next one I'm curious to hear your opinion on, though. Emeka Egbuka, wide receiver out of OSU, to the Texans, 25th overall.
Love it. Would absolutely love it. Look, I know everybody loved Tank Dell. Can't stay healthy. Stephon Diggs was on a 1-year deal. He's out the door. You have Nico Collins, who goes deep, plays bully ball, and then you have Emeka, who does everything between the numbers, between the hash marks, extremely well. He is going to be what everybody wanted Tank Dell to be, and he's bigger than Tank Dell. So I would love it. I would draft him and not even think about it because he has the ability to be up there. He does everything great. Doesn't do anything elite, but does everything great.
I might risk, depending on my team build, taking Egbuka over Shadur Sanders if this exact scenario unfolds. To your point, he's going to be exactly what people wanted Tank Dell to be. He's bigger. He's going to be a good slot receiver in the NFL. And I think a lot of people overlook Egbuka for a couple of different reasons. Number one, he never really improved throughout college. If you look at the numbers, he didn't really like climb as far as the numbers go throughout year to year. But that leads me to my second point. He was never really the guy at a team that was just absolutely loaded at wide receiver year after year at Ohio State, behind Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Marvin Harrison Jr., this year Jeremiah Smith. But he was always a very consistent producer at Ohio State. He always was pretty much the wide receiver to the last 2 or 3 years, behind several guys who were, high draft capital, high caliber prospects going into the NFL. Not only that, something you didn't mention that would get me excited, he has rapport with CJ Stroud.
Oh, he does. Yeah, no, I didn't even think. I didn't even think about that.
He has rapport with CJ Stroud. They played together for 2 years at Ohio State, so it's just something that their development at the NFL level would be accelerated because of that fact. So yeah, this would be awesome. I might draft Egbuka like 105, like if this is his landing spot.
He is a guy I want to see at Denver personally, as a Denver Broncos fan. If he went to Denver, totally happy. Like, we can go get a tight end. Like, give me one of those third-round tight ends. Like,
go get you a Harold Fannin Jr.
Hey, you say what you want, dude. I don't care about the 40. Can the dude get open? Can the dude block? And can he run routes? That's what Fannin does.
I didn't see his 40.
I think it was like a 4.71. I think he just had a bad day. It doesn't matter. The tape says what it says. The man he's big, receiving. Like, he did well at the Senior Bowl. I'm not worried about it. Put the pads on. Can the boy play? I hate when people overthink these 40-yard dashes.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about it in our rookie episode, but how often do NFL players ever run 40 yards in a straight line with no pads on? The answer is never. Speaking of 40 times, though, and impressive speeds, the last first-round fantasy-relevant draft pick in Daniel Jeremiah's mock draft, Matthew Golden, 30th overall to the Buffalo Bills. I hate just about any wide receiver going to the Buffalo Bills. That offense is just designed to spread the football around too much for any, concentrated wide receiver one fantasy production. That being said, for real life purposes, this would be really fun to watch because you'd have, Khalil Shakir running your routes underneath, and then you'd just have Matthew Golden flying down the field, stretching defenses out for Josh Allen.
Yep. No, exactly. And that's about it. But it scares me because, Shakir just got his 4-year contract. They have Coleman there. They have their tight end, but really it's just James Cook and.
Yeah, I don't see an avenue where the Bills draft a wide receiver, but this is the mock that was provided, so.
Yeah, I don't think they are either. So,
if you had to pick one person who is not on this list to sneak into the first round, who is it, and which part of the first round do you think they'd go in?
I don't know if I have a name. I don't have a name off the top of my head.
You don't think Jackson Dart's a first rounder?
I think if he is, it's at the end of the first round.
Dude, I think he's like a top 15 pick.
Really?
I do. I look around the league and I'm like, there's some really desperate teams to fix their quarterback situations out there.
I love Jackson Dart personally. I like his demeanor and everything. So,
Yeah, my big question about Jackson Dart is some timing routes. If you watch the film, a lot of Ole Miss, the way Lane Kiffin has his offense, is his wide receivers are just running wide open most of the time. That Jackson Dart's completing these passes. Granted, they're not like inaccurate passes or anything, but how if you look at Ole Miss's film, like all 22 versus like NFL all 22, it's like they're day and night. There's never going to be wide receivers running that wide open in the NFL. So it's one of my bigger concerns with Jackson Dart. Not saying he can't do it, just saying we didn't see it a whole lot. But I do think that there's enough desperate teams that he could be a middle first-round pick.
Yeah. I mean, I could see it. I could see the avenue for it. I just don't know if it'll happen because everybody thought Drew Lock was going to be a first-round draft pick in top 10, and then he didn't go till.
But Paxton Lynch, bro.
Stop, just stop, please.
What if? Cry. Okay, so let's also insert Quinshon Judkins, Kansas City, 31st overall down here.
There we go. Judkins, I can see getting into the first two. Kansas City Chiefs, love it. Love it. You have a 7th rounder in Pacheco, and we all know about draft capital for running backs and how the Chiefs feel. I think Pacheco would be on his way out, and I think Judkins can do everything Pacheco does.
But better.
If not better.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that the running back landing spots, I think this could turn very sideways too, because a lot of teams could have the mentality, I can get 90% of Quinshon Judkins in the 3rd round, so I'll just wait, and you might see some running backs fall in the draft due to that kind of mentality. So it'll be very interesting. But we did just complete the combine. It's probably the last big box we had to check prior to the NFL draft as far as rookies are concerned. We do have free agency, which, is going to prelude some things to shake up a little bit. I think the tampering period starts a week from today.
A week from today? Heck yeah. I'm excited. We're going to have a lot of fantasy football to talk about. So,
yeah, free agency might be dead this year with all this incoming talent, on the offensive side of the football, except at quarterback.
And T. Higgins is getting tagged. There's
not
a lot to talk about.
Yeah, but Jake, anything else you would like to add as far as this mock draft before we sign off?
Well, man, this was just fun to talk about. Fun to get football.
Hopefully
sure was better.
Yeah, man. So I have nothing else to add, so I will close out the show. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of BSing Sports, where we are here most Mondays at 6:30 p.m. I know this show is going to release on Tuesday. Technically, we are here at Monday, almost 6:30, but we're just not releasing the show until Tuesday, 6:30 p.m. So we can make, maybe some edits and add some cool little features in there to our videos. But yeah, thank you for tuning in to another episode of BSing Sports, where we do a little BS and we talk a whole lot of sports. Go Birds.